Yesterday, about 4:30 to 4:45, somewhere in there, I showed up here at the courthouse to file my absentee vote with my significant other. And
who's your other?
Amber Callahan. And when we came in here, it was pretty full, about probably around 30, 40 people in here. And I noticed approximately about 25 of them or so seemed mentally incapacitated. And then as I was waiting, I filled out my application to do an absentee vote, and I turned it in, and I'm guessing they go back and check with township and so forth where I'm supposed to vote and see if I'm registered. In that about 10-15 minutes that they did that, I started looking around me, and I noticed from the 3 voter polls that I see staff members of these mentally incapacitated people assisting them physically and telling them what candidates to vote. I see some of the individuals that are mentally incapacitated that don't even realize what they're doing, or they completely walk away from the booth. And when the staff member's trying to get them back there, the staff member proceeds and then gives up and fills out the voting, the ballot, and then goes back and gets the individual, folds it up, put it in the envelope, and takes him to the board or to the counter to turn his ballot in. I witnessed another case when I was turning my ballot. One individual did not want to give his ballot to the county official because he thought it was his. He thought it was a gift or what, I don't know. He was so mentally incapacitated, he didn't realize what he was doing and why he was here today. He got upset when she was taking it from him. So there was just in a matter of minutes this was going on. There was probably about 4 or 5 staff members that I noticed. And there's also about 20 mentally incapacitated folks. I questioned one of them that was at one of the poll booths. There were a couple booths over from me. One of the staff members that were reading off DFL candidates and assisting them physically on which ones to fill in. And I turned around and I got upset with the individual and explained, I don't even think the individual was 20 or 21 years old or less. How can you come here and do this on my tax dollars? Because I'm sure these individuals are being taken care of under state tax dollars. Just a number of things. There's a lot of ethical issues.
Yeah.
So
You need to shut that off. Sorry, this is a polling location.
Yep.
There has been no authorization for any videotaping.
Okay.
You need to shut your camera off.
Can I interview you?
You can shut your
Downstairs?
camera off. You can shut your camera off first.
Is that a yes or no?
Talk.
Okay. Can I interview the city or the county or state officials? Were they badged? Did they have badges hanging from them or on the
I
belt?
believe so, yes.
Okay. Do you know from where they were from? Like the state hospital, did it say anything on there?
You mean the
staff.
officials with the staff? No,
Yeah.
I did not notice a badge on them.
Okay, they didn't have badges
No.
apparent.
No.
Okay.
Of the individuals that came here to vote.
Okay.
No, I did not notice. I just knew that they were in charge of the individuals based on their ability to mentally function, coerce them to vote, and so forth. And that's how I made my assumption just by observation. And the individuals voting clearly were mentally incapacitated.
Okay.
Should not be.
Unless somebody has physically been placed under a guardianship that particularly takes away their right to vote, and we get those records cross-checked through the Department of Human Services, through the Department of Corrections, the statewide voter registration system is cross-referenced with those different databases. Unless that specific right has been taken away, a person is allowed to vote and they're allowed to bring someone to assist them.
Are they allowed, a staff member, to tell them how to vote?
A staff member should not be telling them how to vote.
Or filling it in for them.
Or people can have people help them fill it in. But the
But I mean,
voter
they're
has to
right.
be the one that is telling them what to fill in.
But that law, I think that law, I work at a lot of legal issues, okay? And I think that law where they can physically have assistance is in place for elderly that shake a lot and a
That's
number of
part of
things
it.
like that. You just can't take someone that doesn't even realize they're at a courthouse and bring them down here. I mean, there's got to be some kind of interpretation on your staff's level, or really check this. I mean, do you check with the county attorney when you witness things, or do you do something?
Who were they told to vote for?
They were told to vote for DFL candidates right down the line.
Now, first off, did you hear that specifically
Yes,
from
I did,
someone
and
say that?
if I can point out the individual, because I confronted her, and I could point her out if I was able to view these staff members. She was a young blonde, probably about this tall. I mean, I could point her out dead right in a second.
Okay.
She obstructed right down the line.
All I can tell you from a county's perspective, we have to go by what the law says. So unless we have actual knowledge that these people are not having the right to vote, we have to allow that to happen. Now, there are legal avenues that we take. A lot of these things are things that happen after election day. Unfortunately, that's the way that the law is written.
Once the vote's in the bank,
Once the
you
vote's in
can't
the
take-
bank, you can't take that back.
But
and
what
there's
can we
nothing
do
you can do
now?
about it at that point. What can be done, there is an election complaint situation that can be filed. You can file a report, or an election complaint that gets forwarded to the county attorney's office. They would review that complaint and that process takes place. It's a review process that would happen.
Okay, is it possible to have poll challengers, when they see something like that, could we post some people and go, you know what, they look incompetent. We'd like these ballots challenged.
But just your observation of what you have to have personal knowledge that that person does not have the ability to cast a ballot. To do a poll challenge, a poll challenger has to be appointed by either a candidate or a party. You can have one person per polling location. And you have to have personal knowledge of that person's eligibility to vote.
But if
So
they're
you would
walking
have to
around
know
and they
that,
don't even know where
but
they
you
are.
would have to have personal knowledge of their
But that would be
ability to
personal
vote.
knowledge though, wouldn't it?
Personal knowledge would be that you know all the aspects of that person's
Or-
medical condition and their ability.
or
to
Well,
vote.
we're talking about walking away from the booth and then
somebody
someone
else
just going, filling it in
ballot.
and turning it in for them. In other words, it left their site.
That
If
has
it-
gotta be.
That part, that should not be occurring. I mean, a person can have somebody who assists them with marking their ballot. And in some cases, that does entail that another person marks the ballot for them. That voter should be right there next to them.
Exactly.
They should not have
And then
moved them
telling
away
them to
and come
vote
back.
DFL
And they should
statewide.
not be telling them who to vote for. However, you cannot watch what is occurring in a person's voting booth either. As a challenger, you can challenge a person's eligibility to vote in a particular precinct. You cannot challenge the fact that you think so-and-so is telling them to vote this way because you shouldn't be that close to that voter to know what is going on in that circumstance. You can't be in the voting booth with them
So
at that
what
same
can we
time.
do to help integrity with voting?
Law changes are the only thing that go into place. As long as we have circumstances that allow for absentee voting with these requirements and what is in place at this time, we have to follow what the law says. We don't have any authority to make judgment calls based on what our perceived notation is unless we have actual physical evidence or physical proof that tells us something different about a voter's capacity.
So there's nothing we can really do.
I mean, you can file the
Well, we
election
could file the
complaint.
election, we will.
I would
Right,
certainly
but then-
suggest that you can file the complaint.
Great, 200 votes just got,
There were not 200 votes.
no, but if
But
it
there
was
was
the fourth,
approximately 25. to
in
my
that,
knowledge,
she said it
in
was
that
the
instance.
fourth.
And she said that this was the fourth group, so that's why it's, who knows how many.
Okay.
And how many days did it go on?
Yeah.
I mean, when I started questioning this and started making calls and everything, and I got told, well, they tried this at the polls in the last election, and they got turned away by the voting judges.
Okay.
Okay, and so now this must be their new ticket, come into the absentee.
You still have the
And-
same requirements at the polls as you do at the absentee precinct. It's still the same situation. If they got turned away from the polls, it's because they got turned away for not having proper ballot identification, or they didn't have the ability to register, or whatever the circumstances may have been on that particular date and time. We have the same criteria for voting at the courthouse through the absentee
But
purpose.
can you
as they do at the
register and
precinct.
vote the same day at
Yes,
an
you
absentee
can.
ballot?
Yes, you can. Same thing as long as you can prove your residency, which means that they had to have a driver's license or they had to have someone who was registered in that precinct vouch for them.
So there's no way, so there's no way,
As a piece of mail.
No, it's not as simple as a piece of mail. It's a photo ID along with a utility bill with that voter's name on it that comes to that address.
so there's no way to confirm that they're still living there, that just they lived there at one point. So you can't find that out until after
After the
election
election.
and the vote's already
And then their
counted.
vote gets
And that's what we've been
their
finding
registration
out
gets
since
challenged.
2008. For the last 2 years, we've been investigating
the
this.
way the
That's
law
exactly it.
says.
So we're watching it live right now. The very thing we've been fighting for 2 years and it's still going on. Who's the Secretary of State?
Mark Ritchie is the Secretary of State right now.
There we go. Okay. Should we go on and find who these people are? You wanna?
Yeah, something needs to be done.
Let's go.
People don't fight for this country to see this. I guess, every red-blooded American should be able to vote, but they've got to have some kind of understanding of what they're doing. And for them to dictate other lives when they're being supervised by someone with lack of experience and different thing and anything that's going on in their life is just ridiculous to see them supervise something like that and take advantage of these people on top of that.
Deborah, what's our next step then? Where do we have to go to talk about the
If you want to
complaints?
file an election complaint, you can come back upstairs to our office. I can get you the form that needs to be filed for that process. That's the
Started.
avenue that your next step would be.
So I'm going to fill this out and turn in a written statement. And this will be for
Sworn
the county
statement?
attorney.
Well, it's hard for me to understand when a staff person from where these people are living are actually doing the voting for this person, because they obviously do not know. First of all, they don't even know Pride, Democrat, or Republican, or Independent. All they know is the staff person, and if that staff person can totally sway what they put down or what they mark on a piece of paper or on a ballot, to have that vote counted, you're counting a staff person's vote. You're not counting a patient's vote. That patient needs to have a guardian or a parent take them individually and talk to them and tell them what's going on, what voting is, and why they're doing it. And if they seem to understand, then that's certainly up to that guardian or that parent to then take them in and let them vote. But if I was a staff person, I would not want to put myself in that position.
Is this estate workers, is that a unionized?
It is union, AFSCME union.
Are these, do you think these are from the state hospital or from group homes? Is it the same union, same process?
We're all AFSCME.
Interesting.
All state employees are AFSCME.
Thank you.
Okay.
My name is Dr. Tom Whitkop. I'm a psychiatrist living in Brainerd, Minnesota. Well, obviously I'm a physician. I'm a psychiatric physician. I'm not a lawyer. But I think in the context of that experience, I can at least try and give some background that might help judge whether or not what occurred was appropriate, legal, etc. But individuals that have developmental disabilities are given many assistances. And one of those assistances has been to make sure that they have appropriate guardianship availability. Now, guardianship in the state of Minnesota is a legal process in which a judge determines, after being given appropriate facts, that an individual is not capable of managing their affairs, and when that occurs, the judge may then appoint an individual that they term a guardian. That individual would then be a regular part of their life on an ongoing basis. The state of Minnesota, in its constitution, determined that individuals who were developmentally disabled would not be eligible to cast votes in elections. However, apparently the state at some point in time, and I'm afraid I don't know the exact year, established a statute that appears to have overridden that constitutional article, such that there is now a statute that can determine, that states that an individual who is developmentally disabled still has the right to vote. That seems unusual to someone who has worked in the field for 40 years. What we had in the interview that I saw, however, I think was not as the Minnesota statute would determine to be legal. These individuals apparently were brought to the voting booth by either a simple staff person or a driver, and none appeared to have been accompanied by a personal guardian. In that case, it would seem blatant that what occurred was not legal under the state statutes as I understand them.